Hey everyone, Devin Knotts here with Football Guys, and I just wanted to break down where do the Titans go from here after losing 35 to 24 in the AFC Championship yesterday. And the biggest question that they have is really on the free agency side. So, two of their best players on offense are now free agents in Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, as well as right tackle Jack Conklin, which is a pretty big deal to sustain that right side of the offense. And for Henry, let's start with Henry. It's a huge fantasy question because if he's not in Tennessee next year, and I think that there's a non-zero chance that he um, will be somewhere else, but if he's not there, you have to lower his fantasy prospects going forward, and he's going to want a big deal. So he had 400 touches this year. He had 400 touches back in college. So while he doesn't have a lot of NFL wear and tear, there is wear and tear dating back to all the way back to high school, which he was one of the best high school running backs of all time. So if they look to franchise one of these two guys, I think it makes the most sense to franchise Tannehill if they have him in their long term plans. And Tannehill's a guy who really overperformed after coming in from Week 7, and we'll get into some of the bad outlooks in later in this video, but looking at Tannehill, he was played the role that they needed. He was a game manager. He was incredibly efficient and really looked like someone who should have been drafted as high as he was. So I think that they have to build off of Tannehill. It's going to be, unless they can get a Rivers or a Brady to come into Tennessee, but I think that'll be a tough sell. So assume that they franchise Tannehill on a prove it deal, and then they try to re-sign Henry. They also have Jack Conklin, who's going to be that prized possession on the offensive line, which I mentioned, and then Logan Ryan, who's a starting corner, but they should be able to handle that one if he does depart based on getting Malcolm Butler back, and Adoree Jackson took a major step forward this year. So let's get into the good. I think that a lot of things to like about Tennessee heading into next year. The tight end position with Jonnu Smith emerging and Delanie Walker coming back, they should have a more than dynamic tandem there. A.J. Brown looks to be a star in the making. He struggled a little bit against elite level corners in Marshawn Lattimore and Stephon Gilmore, and then the Baltimore corners in Peters and Jimmy Smith. But I think that Brown as a rookie looked tremendous. Jarrell Casey was often injured this year, and heading into next year should be one of the top defensive linemen once again. But there's some bad things about Tennessee. So Adam Humphries his contract's a particularly bad one. He's making about $10 million from a cap hit standpoint next year. There's holes at the inside linebacker, which I would expect that they would try to address through the draft, as Rashaan Evans struggled for most of the year. And then as good as the offensive line was from a run blocking standpoint, their pass blocking allowed the third most sacks in the NFL. So if Conklin is departing, that's a major concern. So Taylor Lewan was out for part of the year. He was suspended, and there's a couple other things that it took the offensive line a little bit of time to get together. And then the biggest red flag is that when Ryan Tannehill took over, their red zone touchdown to field goal ratio is almost impossible to keep up. So they had, since week 7, they had 33 touchdowns to just 2 field goals. We know that's not going to continue. The good news is they play in a weak division again. So Jacksonville looks to be a mess. The Colts, who knows? Jacoby Brissett, is he the guy? Do they need to go out and look at some of these other free agent type players? And then Houston is going to be good as well. But if they can keep Henry, I think that they're incredibly, incredibly talented. They looked much better than their 9-7 record. But signing Henry should be priority number one. The question is whether or not John Robinson and Mike Vrabel will do that. Coming from the Patriots way, they don't typically pay running backs. So they may look for a viable replacement through the draft or somewhere else. And if that happens, Derrick Henry's fantasy stock, especially in Dynasty and Keeper Leagues, takes a massive hit for this year. So keep an eye on it. If you have him, you might want to consider moving him. If you could get top dollar today, just knowing that there is some risk there. But I would put it at 80% that he's back, but there's still if the Steelers or someone else come in with a massive offer, it's going to be hard for Henry to say no to it. They have the cap space. It's just a question of whether or not Robinson and the team will spend on a running back. So we'll have more of these to come. If you like this video, click like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. And we'll be back tomorrow with another video. Thanks, everybody.